on va continuer sur le même tempo. Deux questions. Après 5 ans de travail dans le cadre de la première phase du programme GMES and Africa, on est arrivé au bout. Donc, on voulait vraiment que les consortiums partagent avec nous leur expérience, nous dire comment le programme GMES and Africa leur a aidé à améliorer la capacité en infrastructure et à l'accès aux données. Donc ça, c'est la première question. Et la deuxième, c'est qu'est-ce qu'ils peuvent partager en termes de leçons apprises et quelles sont les recommandations pour la deuxième phase de GMES and Africa. Donc chacun a 5 minutes pour pour pouvoir répondre à ces questions, parce qu'on est un peu coincé par le temps. Donc pour cela, je vais commencer par donner la parole à l'Université du Ghana. University of Ghana, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the University of Ghana, we've had a lot of experience in sharing data among our partners, and our main source of data comes from the internet as well as from the GeoNetcast, or what we call the MESA stations. So most of our partners have the MESA station, and then luckily for us at the University of Ghana, we have a good source of internet. But our partners in the various countries do not have that level of internet. So what we do is we push some of our products to onto the UMETCA stations. So we have this agreement with UMETSAT, and then when we develop our product, a lot of our products, be it forecast products or satellite products, we disseminate it through the UMETCast channel, and they are able to download this on their MESA stations or the GeoNetcast stations. And then where we realize that there is, the data is huge and we cannot send it through these stations, sometimes when we organize programs like the conferences and all of that, we get hard drives for them, put as much data on it as much as possible, and then share it to our partners. And that is by way of how we access data and share data among our partners. So for the second question, which is the recommendation going into the future, my colleague did a presentation and indicated using cloud computers, indicated using the Google Earth engine, and so many other options like the Wakehue and cloud computing. We need to go that direction. That is the direction we need to go. And then using the Garnet, that is the WACREN system, where data is shared through certain internet infrastructure, where all universities collaborate. We don't need to be connected to the global internet. Once you have a network connection which runs through these research networks, you put the data there and they are able to access it. And that is where we're planning to go in the next phase of GMES and Africa. So in a nutshell, the platform already exists for us to be able to share data. The infrastructure, some of the infrastructure exists, but we need to make sure we maintain this infrastructure, especially we need to encourage the various countries, since they know the importance of data and the use of it, to be able to push a little bit of resource into maintaining this infrastructure for their own purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The representative of University of Ghana. Now I give the floor to the RCMRD.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Ngugi Kimani from RCMRD. And at RCMRD, we were implementing 3 services. That is land degradation, wetlands monitoring, as well as compiling a database for open vectors. Thank you. And our experience is that the GMES and Africa program has done remarkably very, very well in providing access to Earth observation data, specifically in the simple tools that they have shared with us, and the mechanisms of accessing this particular data, and also ways in which you can be able to analyze data without a lot of complexity. So this is something that we can say we have learned a lot from the program. And what we also realized that despite the fact that RCMRD has the capability of processing and accessing this data, the big question was, how would the users that we serve be able to access this particular information? So what we basically did was to come up with a geoportal that would serve as a gateway to accessing this information. And we went further in analyzing and saying, if we put a lot of data sets in our geoportal, perhaps 100 or so, no one will go through the data sets one by one. Somebody has to find a way in which you can access these data sets very, very quickly and in a simple, easy manner. So what we did was to link our geoportal to global platforms that people go to access particular data sets. And in so doing, they are able to access the GMES and Africa data sets that we have put. And two big platforms that we have leveraged on when it comes to accessing of our data sets is the Africa Geoportal, as well as the Google Earth Engine, where we have uploaded some of the data sets that we have already processed and even analyzed, so that people can be able to access this particular information. Perhaps if I can go to some of the lessons learned and what we can watch out in the next phase, there are about two things. One is really to simplify the tools that we use. The tools that we use, they are a bit technical, and most of the people who are able to use these tools are people who are still in the field of Earth observation. So if we can be able to simplify the tools further, we can be able to get use cases that are beyond the Earth observation sector. The other thing that I would want to mention is that we need to also look at the emerging opportunities. And perhaps at some point we need to document what are some of the success stories that we saw as emerging opportunities from phase 1 that can be taken down to phase 2. And I'll highlight a specific success story or maybe an emerging opportunity that RCMRD is actually picking up based on the data sets that we compiled under Open Vector. We have one of the biggest banks in Kenya, and I think it's serving in Uganda, Tanzania, and DRC. It is called Kenya Commercial Bank. They went to our GMS geoportal, and they were looking for boundaries of specific locations. And after getting the boundaries, they came back to us and asked, is it possible for you to create for us a dashboard that shows the agents that are located in the country, that is Kenya, and we can be able to extract this information to know if you have, or if you want to check, is there an agent in a specific location? How can you be able to do this? So this is an emerging opportunity that is actually underway, and it's a financial sector. It had not been anticipated that at the end of GMES and Africa phase 1, we would be having a bank utilizing these particular products that we have compiled. So these are the two things that I would want to mention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for RCMRD. Now, on va donner la parole à l'OSS, qui va nous partager son expérience aussi.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. So, the first finding that we have found in the beginning of the development of the service is that there is a huge amount of free available Earth observation data, but in the same time, there's a weak integration in decision making. So we have to think why. Because of complexity of analysis, because of lack of knowledge of processing, because there's a lot of questions they were pending. So our idea is that we developed two platforms. One is MISBA and one is MISLAND. One is mainly for agriculture and water abstractions monitoring. Second one is mainly for land degradation and restoration monitoring, since both platforms are using not the same technologies. The thing is that it's good to develop platforms, but it's good also to train users on their use. So the idea is that people, as soon as we develop a module or component, we invite people to join our virtual trainings. We started with 100 or less than around 106 people trained, and then in every session we have more than 150 people are waiting for what we are developing. And then if we consider the sustainability issues, if we develop services who are running on some cloud computing, some paid cloud computing, after the end of the project we will face some problems. So the idea is that first consideration is that we acquire some data centers that they are hosted at OSS level. So our idea is that even at the end of the project or any phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we are able to ensure their administration and maintenance. And because of that, we make kind of mandatory action is that people, they need to be trained on the administration and the maintenance. There's kind of technology transfer who has been done by the private sector towards OSS consortium because the sustainability matters in this question. Also, the e-station, we have, let's say, our consortium was beneficiary of 3 stations, but they have been, let's say, installed at the end of the project. So people, let's say, partners, they didn't have enough let's say, experience or enough opportunity to make them operational. So what we expect in the second phase that we set up trainings in 2 ways. Either with people who are already trained in African partners who are able to let's say, to support us in terms of operationalization of e-station, like ICPAC, for example. Or we have also to think about GRC involvement. In terms of data centers, when we acquire data center, the idea is that one of the constraints of Sentinel imagery is that it's complicated. You will spend 1 hour to download an image. You will spend 1 hour to layer stack, to make some composition, etc. And you need some space, some experience, some skills. What we try to do in the first phase is that we develop some services which hide this complexity. Whether it's agriculture, whether it's water abstractions, or whether it's burns, let's say, active fires monitoring or burns area monitoring. So the idea is that the complexity of collect, download, analyze, process the satellite imagery is already hidden. But maybe what we didn't, let's say, do perfectly is that we provide this information. End users still have to interact with the platforms in order to ensure to get some products. So what we are going to do in what is planned in the second phase is that we work more on the product dissemination. It means end user, they don't have 2 steps. They don't have to search the product, produce it, and then interpret it. They will try to make, let's say, ensure the easy access and the intuitive access to this product. And also we'll work more on automatic processing of larger area. And the third point is how to make the e-station more operational. So these are my 3 points. What we have learned is that we prefer avoiding all the paid cloud computing platforms because we'll face some problems at the end of the project or of the phase. And the second one is that when end users are engaged, they will ask you for more product and services. It means if you are able to engage them, they will support you until the end. And I'm glad to say that last week we have the first, let's say, GMS closing phase 1 in Tunisia, where end users were able to present to the central, let's say, to the Ministry of Agriculture what they have been doing for a few months, thanks to their engagement, but also thanks to the National Mapping Center engagement as well as OSS, what they are doing for agriculture monitoring, for illicit water abstractions, for bird fire monitoring. The end users were presenting to the Ministry of Agriculture what they have been doing. So this is what we are trying to do, what we are trying to, let's say, engage more end users, engage more stakeholders in the second phase. Thank you.
Okay, merci beaucoup à l'OSS. Now, the last but not least, SASSCAL, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. moderator. From our consortium, which is SASSCAL, I would like to highlight that we've had a few successes, and we are also not very different from what our colleagues have also experienced in terms of the challenges. So, allow me to first of all just briefly mention that SASSCAL is involved. It's got about 6 technical partners spread across the whole Southern Africa, with focus on the Kuve land, Limpopo, Zambezi, and Okavango wetlands. And most of the data that we are using is mainly coming from what our colleagues are also using, the Sentinel 2 and 3, which we are using to download our wetland monitoring, land cover, and we're also using Landsat to obtain our time series data. So, so far, we have developed a geoportal which can evaluate the extent, the vegetation health, also the water quality. It can also predict fire occurrences, and a lot other products, some of which we intend to operationalize and upscale in the second phase. So far, the data is also supplemented by some in situ data which we've been collecting through our different partners. So the 3 main products or services that we're focusing on is exposure, sensitivity, and resiliency, which is basically focusing on land use, cover, soil moisture, and precipitation. So in terms of the other important sources of data, we are also using Google Earth, Google Explorer, our e-stations, and like the African Union advised, we highly explore the Copernicus data. So some of the challenges that we've been facing are not different from what my colleagues have already explained here, is that sometimes we have an issue of high volume data which has to be downloaded, and then connectivity is obviously a common issue, and I'm happy that the AU is actually taking note to come up with a more permanent solution to this. And then high performance computing is also something that is very necessary because this can also help us to come up with very high resolution results. We are also using some cloud storage, but our servers are also a bit limited, and they also need to be upgraded so that we could accommodate this high data. So just to highlight some of the lessons learned, like I mentioned, large volumes of data involved here. So sometimes we do find ourselves in a situation where we have to share this data. So the data sharing has been a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure if we were to upgrade our infrastructure, especially the server, and not rely so much on the cloud storage, I think we will be in a position to actually do much better. There is a limitation to the cloud storage unless one pays something extra. So another interesting lesson learned is that there is also need to have a lot of interaction with the different governments that we work with. This is something that we expect to work on, especially in the second phase, to try to interact more with the governments, because this is something that would actually help us facilitate especially the end user interaction that we have. Sometimes we do find some issues with easy access to some of these end users. So those are some of the few issues that I would like to highlight. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup au SASSCAL. Voilà, donc en écoutant les intervenants, il y a trois principales recommandations que je peux tirer, en tout cas de l'expérience. La première, ça revient toujours, la durabilité des stations. Ça revient toujours. La deuxième, c'est surtout le renforcement de capacité dans le domaine du cloud computing, l'utilisation du traitement des données en ligne. Et l'autre, c'est le partage des données, notamment avec les end users. Donc ça, je pense qu'il y a une session qui va traiter de ça, mais c'est une très bonne recommandation. Comme tout à l'heure, je vais déroger encore à la règle, mais cette fois-ci, je vais donner la parole à deux personnes, à savoir le secteur privé et le secteur académique. Pour nous, parce que tout à l'heure, mon ami Adam Assar du Centre de suivi écologique en a parlé, l'innovation, c'est le secteur privé. Donc l'accès aux données, la durabilité, surtout la durabilité par rapport aux e-stations, le secteur privé a un rôle à jouer. Est-ce que le secteur privé est présent dans la salle? Si oui, est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui voulait prendre la parole? Vous pouvez venir. Alors, le secteur académique aussi a un rôle à jouer dans l'accès aux données et aussi a beaucoup à tirer aussi dans l'accès aux données parce que c'est là où on fait de la recherche, on a besoin d'accès aux données, on a besoin souvent de beaucoup de ressources de calcul et souvent les moyens ne sont pas réunis et donc eux aussi, ils ont besoin de l'accès aux données. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un du secteur académique qui voulait prendre la parole?
Oui, donc bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Serge Riazanov, je suis de Visioterra. Alors c'est vrai que mon siège est à Paris, mais je peux vous parler de quelque chose que vous essayez de réaliser. Je voudrais quand même saluer l'ambition que vous avez eue tous dans votre projet. On vous a suivi, on vous a accompagné. La société Africa EO Service a fait des plateformes aussi pour aider sur les consortia OSS et de AGEOS. Ce que vous réalisez actuellement en Afrique, en Europe, on ne l'a pas réalisé. On n'a pas encore réussi. Il faut que vous sachiez que ce que vous faites actuellement, tout le monde vous regarde. Ce n'est pas quelque chose de facile de faire du business, des services, de l'argent avec des données gratuites. Les données maintenant américaines, rappelez-vous, Landsat avait lancé le premier. Et maintenant, les données européenne avec cet énorme programme Copernicus, on n'a jamais vu ça. Beaucoup d'intervenants ont parlé de quantités énormes de données. C'est pire que ça. C'est des pétabytes. On va atteindre maintenant les exabytes, les milliers de pétabytes. Donc vous avez actuellement un niveau de données, de variété des données, de qualité des données, qui est à peu près, ma main n'est pas assez haute pour le montrer. Et le niveau de l'appropriation par les Européens qui financent ce programme Il n'est pas là, il est là. Et donc, on passe beaucoup de temps, et le programme Copernicus a oublié deux choses. Deux choses. C'est un programme énorme. Aujourd'hui, on a dépensé déjà 6 milliards d'euros, et on s'apprête à faire la même chose. Mais on a oublié deux choses dans le programme Copernicus, pour des raisons que je ne comprends pas. C'est l'éducation et les infrastructures. Ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, l'Afrique, j'ai honte, moi, Européen, de vous voir aller chercher les données à Google Earth Engine sur le cloud d'Amazon, c'est-à-dire qu'en fait, les données, on n'est même pas capable de vous les fournir, nous, de manière facile. Donc, il faut savoir que les difficultés que vous rencontrez, ce n'est pas seulement la fracture numérique, mais c'est aussi les difficultés que nous, Européens, on rencontre. Donc là-dedans, comment évolue le secteur privé et l'université? Moi, j'ai la chance, je suis un peu les deux, parce que j'ai commencé, je suis professeur à l'université Paris-Est, Marne-la-Vallée. Je travaillais avec des gens que vous connaissez tous, Jean-Paul Rudan, des gens qui ont été des ambassadeurs en Afrique. On a fait beaucoup de projets ensemble. Et donc, en fait, effectivement, à l'université, on est comme tout le monde, on a tellement de données qu'on ne sait plus où donner de la tête. Les time series, toutes les études thématiques, tout est compliqué. Et par contre, on a la chance en Europe, c'est d'avoir la fibre optique à peu près partout. Et on a la possibilité d'avoir beaucoup de données. Maintenant, beaucoup de données, pour faire quoi? Et donc, j'apprécie beaucoup, il y a eu plusieurs fois, vous avez mentionné le fait que de ne pas avoir accès à la donnée pour la donnée, mais la donnée pour le service, pour l'information. C'est-à-dire que les pétaoctets de données qui sont derrière, d'aller en extraire le petit filet d'information qui fera la valeur ajoutée. Alors ça, c'est peut-être une opportunité pour le secteur privé. Et pour le secteur privé, d'extraire cette petite information et de pouvoir la distribuer. Et ça, c'est inventé, mais qui paiera pour? Si vous avez la réponse, ça intéresse aussi l'Europe.
Bonjour tout le monde. C'est Cheikh Saad Boukamara, président de l'Université de Nouakchott Al-Asriya en Mauritanie. Je me sens interpellé directement quand on parle du secteur académique. Et je vais quand même dire deux mots en cette fin de journée où, généralement, on manque d'inspiration. Écoutez, je suis personnellement étonné à ce qu'à ce stade où nous sommes, à ce niveau de développement de nos universités, on est encore en train de se poser la question de comment créer une connexion entre le milieu académique et le milieu privé. Or, à ce que je sache, en tout cas pour les universités que j'ai connues et la mienne, il y a des stratégies qui sont développées de façon à ce que l'université opère un réel ancrage entre elle et son milieu socio-économique. Ça, je peux l'affirmer ici. Nous avons assisté à plusieurs forums, nous sommes constitués en réseau et si nous sommes invités aujourd'hui, c'est que quelque part, il y a un développement, il y a une connexion qui est en train de se développer justement pour que cette connexion entre le public et le privé soit opérée, et surtout l'académique. Alors, par rapport, ça je l'ai dit, soit par rapport à l'accès aux données, par rapport à la professionnalisation de nos filières, et surtout par rapport à la préparation de notre produit, c'est-à-dire nos étudiants, nos sortants, parce que nous sommes des institutions de formation d'abord et par vocation. Nous sommes donc des institutions de formation et nous sommes appelés justement à préparer nos étudiants sortants à entrer justement dans leur milieu socio-économique. C'est ce que nous sommes en train de faire au niveau de plusieurs universités africaines, en tout cas ouest-africaines, que j'ai beaucoup connues, et c'était le témoignage que je voulais ajouter.